When the Civil War began, no one could have imagined how long, brutal, and costly it would become. In both the North and the South, they actually looked forward to a few glorious battles and a quick victory, but they were sadly and terribly mistaken. But why did this war become so devastating and deadly? Well, that's what we're here to discover. I'm Dan Luer, and this is History for Little Humans. Before we get going, I just want to let teachers and homeschool parents know that there are lesson plans and resources that go with this episode on my website, historyforhumans.com, and there's direct links below to ensure that your students are ready to wrestle with this history. So let's get into it. Our exploration question for today's lesson is, what were the major battles in the first 2 years of the Civil War? And why did it become so deadly? So keep your mind focused on that question, students, as we go through the episode. After the Battle of Fort Sumter, there was no major fighting for months. Instead, both the Union and the Confederacy raised, readied, and equipped their armies. They both had this romantic vision of swaggering into battle, defending their honor and their countries, and then claiming victory. But they'll find out war wasn't so glorious after all. You see, both armies were filled with patriotic and courageous men who were proud and eager to fight for their countries, or for many in the South, their states. It made them soldier on and fight with all they had, which is one reason why the war got so bloody once the two armies met on the fighting fields. After weeks of pressure from President Lincoln, finally on July 21, 1861, the Union Army marched from Washington to attack Confederate forces in the Battle of Bull Run. Hoping to witness a swift victory, several Northerners and congressmen picnicked on the hills above the battlefield. The Confederate general, though, had been tipped off by two female spies of the advancing boys in blue, and they were prepared for the battle. Still, with their superior numbers, the Union forces pushed the rebels back most of the day. As other Confederate divisions retreated, though, General Thomas Jackson's men held strong. Another officer yelled, "Look, there's General Jackson and his Virginians standing like a stone wall!" The rebels rebounded and sent the Union forces scattering in a chaotic retreat. The spectators up on the hill were shocked by the Union defeat and the sheer carnage of battle. After Bull Run, it was clear to all, this war was no picnic. President Lincoln needed to switch things up, and he placed General George McClellan as the leader of the Army of the Potomac. General McClellan trained his men incredibly well, but he was a cautious and timid commander. Even with his vastly superior forces, he always believed that he was outnumbered, and on numerous occasions he let the enemy slip right through his hands. It drove Lincoln nuts. But out west, it was a different story, and a Union hero was finally rising. Under General Ulysses S. Grant, Union forces were making advances in the West. Grant knew that the Union possessed superior numbers and firepower, and he let the Confederates know it. To Grant, war was simple. Attack your enemy, win some, lose some, but most of all, keep moving forward. And he did just that. But on April 6, 1862, Confederates launched a surprise attack, hoping to smash Grant's forces. Fighting outside Shiloh Church in Tennessee, the Confederates battered the Union forces the first day. But overnight, when both armies regrouped and rested, without the Confederates knowing, Grant's reinforcements arrived. With renewed strength and vigor, they drove out the exhausted rebel forces. It was a vital victory for the Union, and it made Grant a hero across the North. But it came at a horrifying price. Close to 23,000 men were dead or wounded, more casualties than nearly all previous American wars combined. And the war was still just getting started. But on another note, that brings us to our quiz flash from the past. What percentage of deaths in the Civil War do you think came from disease and not from battle? 20%? 50%? 65%? Or 90%? Time's up. If you guessed C, 65%, you got it. And that's pretty crazy, because diseases like pneumonia, dysentery, malaria, and even diarrhea killed more than twice the number of soldiers than bullets did. And had it not been for so many female nurses who volunteered, it would have been much higher. Back in the East, the Union was in trouble when Robert E. Lee was placed in command of the Confederate Army. General Lee was a proud Virginian who had graduated second in his class at West Point. And even though he disagreed with secession, once Virginia seceded, he knew where his loyalties lay. He had to fight for his state. He was a masterful general whose tactics helped to defeat superior Union forces on multiple occasions. And changing tactics, Lee marched into Union territory, believing that a victory in the North could shock the Union and make them give up. As Lee's men marched northward though, 2 Union soldiers amazingly found General Lee's secret battle plans wrapped around cigars. And this was particularly shocking because General Lee was very careful with his plans. Get it? General Lee, very careful? McClellan couldn't believe his luck, but again was too slow to act and he lost the advantage. The 2 armies collided at Antietam Creek on September 17, 1862. Just as dawn broke through the morning fog, the guns began to rattle and the cannons unleashed their fury. For 10 horrible hours, the 2 armies fought and slugged on, often at close range. A combined 23,000 men were killed or wounded, making Antietam the single bloodiest day in American history. And as Lee's army retreated back south, McClellan missed another opportunity by not pursuing the exhausted and near-starving Southern Army. President Lincoln had finally had it and replaced McClellan. Though it was more of a tie, Lincoln claimed victory and used it to announce his Emancipation Proclamation, which freed all enslaved people in the Confederacy. But still yet, the war was far from over, and the worst was yet to come. But with emancipation, the war was no longer about just saving the Union, but also ending slavery. For 2 years, the war had raged, but now it was not just a matter of life or death, it was freedom or slavery. And in our next episode, we'll discover what events and battles finally led to a Union victory, so hang in for that. And remember, students, that history is the light that guides us forward. So thanks for learning some today. This has been History for Little Humans. Hey, thank you so much for watching. It really means a lot to me. And if you liked the episode, could you just click and show it, and you can hit subscribe as well. Also, for young readers, you can check out my book on the Civil War, Spies in the Civil War for Kids, a history book. It's got amazing tales of adventure and shows how spies helped to shape and impact the war. It's on Amazon and on my website. All right, I'll catch you next time.